The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Steve Comby. I'm with Frontier Precision, and I will be your presenter, moderator, and host today during our webinar. We've had a really good registration for this. We just have probably about a third of you joining now. Thank you for your punctuality, and we'll get started since it is the top of the hour. This presentation should just last about 30 minutes, so hopefully I'm not taking up a lot of your valuable time today and you guys can get back to work. So let's get started with this. We do have to have everybody muted during the course of the presentation today. If not, past experience has shown us that we just have too much background noise, things like this, and it just makes too much of a distraction for everybody. So we will be recording the presentation today, and we'll make that available. We'll send everybody a notice of where that link is, just in case you've had colleagues or associates that can't attend that. You can pass that link on to them so they can view that later. Okay, an agenda of what we're going to discuss today. So we'll have a brief overview of what these remote tank level monitoring systems are, and then we'll explore three different systems that people can set up. One that's a cellular only system. We also have a satellite system. So we know there's a lot of remote areas in the West where there isn't any, or there's very poor cellular coverage. So we do have a satellite system. And then we have one that also has remote telemetry and remote control. So if somebody wants to know more than just what the water level is in their tanks, they can remotely control a pump and turn that on and off based on the water level in their tanks and or in their troughs too. So we'll discuss that a little bit as well. We'll discuss our HydroView data hosting portal. In fact, we'll go right into that and let you see what a user would be seeing either from their laptop, smartphone, or a tablet. So basically anywhere that you have internet access, you can view your tank levels. I also have a sheet on pricing, so we'll show you pricing for all of the systems. This includes the hardware as well as the telemetry costs. And then we'll have a review, and then we'll open it up to questions. And for the questions, we'll just have you submit those at the end of the session. So if you think of some during the session, just make a note of those and write those down. And then you'll see over on your GoToMeeting pane, there is a little section where you can type out questions and submit those. So I'll read your questions off and then answer those and hopefully take care of all of that. So with that in mind, let's get rolling with this. So very simple systems for just the monitoring component of this. With your on-site hardware, your remote telemetry system consists of either a cellular transmitter, an Iridium satellite transmitter, or a radio system that uses a cellular or a satellite gateway. So you have this radio to cellular modem or satellite modem transmitter gateway at one of your stations, typically at the monitoring tank site. Now to get the water levels, we have a recording pressure transducer, so it has a water level and a temperature sensor in it. And you can get both data coming back. Sometimes the temperature data is actually very meaningful as well, to keep track of what the water temperatures are inside of those tanks. So any data that's being recorded on that transducer can be transmitted back and viewed by the user. And then of course you can get any length of cable that you want, depending on the size of your tank, to connect that sensor with the remote telemetry transmitter. Okay, so let's look at the cellular option first. So you pretty much just have the transmitter, your length of cable, and the transducer in the tank. Now we have a few different sizes and shapes of these cellular transmitters. We have two of them that are kind of a tubular format, and then two that are a square box. The one shown is by far the least expensive option. It doesn't require a solar panel. I'll get into the nitty-gritty and the nuts and bolts of this in a slide that's coming up here shortly. So this is just preset up by the user to transmit data at a specified interval. So you can say, okay, I want the data every hour. I want to see the data every 15 minutes, every 4 hours. That's all set up by you. So it transmits the data on a user-specified interval. That, of course, goes out to the nearest cell tower. And then from the cell tower, depending on the network, it's either rebroadcast via cellular, or sometimes there's a hard line from the cellular telemetry to get it into the network. And then the screen over there on the far right is basically an example of what the user would be seeing on their device, on their tablet, computer, or smartphone. So with our cellular system, if we just do a quick review of the OnSite hardware, we have the In-Situ Tube 300R cellular transmitter, your cable, and your water level sensor. Very simple components, nothing complicated about this. There's various ways you can mount this in the tank. This is a sub 2-inch diameter tube. And the top of it, there's two threaded holes, so you could put some eye bolts in there with a little wire rope or carabiner, and then just hang it from the inside of the tank. You could fashion a hole in the top of the tank, 2-inch diameter, and the collar on the top of this is just wide enough that it will sit on top of a 2-inch ID collar, which allows the little stub antenna that comes with it standard to poke through the top of that and have access to the cellular network. So if we look at this particular item closely, what's included inside of this stainless steel tube, so a very unoriginal name for this device, is you have a long life lithium battery. And for somebody that's transmitting data on an hourly basis, this battery will probably last you a year. And then you can open up the top of this thing and install a new lithium battery in there. There's a cellular transmitter inside of this. There's an optional barometric pressure sensor inside of this. And let me elaborate a little bit on that and why that's in there. We have some with the barometer and some that don't. The reason that we're putting it in there with our lowest cost system is that the water level sensor that we're using requires barometric pressure compensation for it to get a true water level. So that sensor makes a measurement. The barometer is continuously reading the barometric pressure. It compensates it, basically subtracts the atmospheric pressure from the overall water pressure, and that is the data that's transmitted and made available to you. So the accuracies that you can expect to see are pretty much about 1/8 of an inch with our lowest cost pressure transducers that I used in the pricing structure. We do have higher accuracy ones that a lot of scientists, state, federal government employees use for their work, because we use these same type of systems for groundwater level measurement, stream gauging, river canal measurement, lake and reservoir measurement, stuff like this. And a lot of times those people like to have 1/100th of a foot accuracy. I figure most people with their tank levels, honestly, they could probably be happy with the 1-inch accuracy, but you're definitely getting much better accuracy than that. It includes this little 3 or 4-inch stub antenna on there and alarm capability too. So you can, in your setup of this tube, you can specify high and low water level set points, And anytime it makes a measurement, if the water level is outside of that area, then the user can get a text message coming to them essentially telling them that tank X or water trough X is above or below the set point that they put in there. Now there's additional ways that we have of getting alarm messages to you too. So in addition to just logging on with your cell phone while you're sitting in the McDonald's parking lot or something, you can also have emails sent to you from the HydroView hosting service. So we have that alarm capability. Now there's some people that we understand out there that either have poor cellular reception or they're kind of right on the fringes. So in addition to the little stub antenna that comes with this, we do have 2 optional high gain antennas that we can offer to. And these really are not that much more expensive. I believe the omnidirectional one, the one shown on the bottom left, the leftmost antenna, not the left side of the screen, is a military grade 6 dB antenna with a mag mount on it. You'll see it comes with a length of external cable. So if you're mounting this tube transmitter down inside the tank and you need to have the antenna exposed on the top, I believe for additional $45, $50 you can purchase that antenna and really boost your signal from there. Now for people that are really on the fringes, we have a directional antenna. The industry name for these is a Yagi antenna. So you can attain a map of where the nearest cell towers are in your area and essentially orient or direct this antenna so it points directly to those cellular transmitters, cellular stations. And it's not a whole lot too. I believe the added price for it is right around $100. So for a cellular system, in addition to the pressure transducer and the cable, this is essentially what your on-site hardware would be this Tube 300 cellular transmitter. Now, if you don't mind, I'd actually like to launch a poll right here. And I know a lot of you are agency people, so maybe you can answer this question for some of your rancher farmer clients in your area. But the first poll that I'd like to launch is one with the question of, do I have adequate cellular coverage in my area? So I'll give you just a few seconds to answer that. Very interesting responses that I'm seeing here so far. This is kind of just some information that I'm collecting for our records. There's a few no's, a lot of not sure's, and some sites. So let me close this down. We didn't get everybody voting on that, but interesting information for me, so thank you for taking part in that. Okay, so let's advance on. Actually, I'm going to share this information to everybody so you can see how your associates voted. Let me see if that screen will make that available. Good, it does. So there's a lot of people that have it at some sites, some none at all, and some that aren't sure. We can address all of those as we come up here, so thank you. Let's hide that and get back to our presentation. See if I can get these slides to advance again. Okay, this is introducing our satellite telemetry option. So it uses the same pressure transducer and cable. So the only thing that's different is your top of tank situation. Now with this, we are using a square box, so you have an enclosure out there that you can mount on the side of the tank, or you can put a pole at the top of the tank or put a pole in the ground and then just mount this box to that. And then all you need is a clear view of the sky. So you can really put that antenna wherever you want with the enclosure. It does come with a little top plate on there to mount that to. So as long as that can have access to the sky, you're in business. Now over there on the far left, you'll see, hey, there's two enclosures on there. The reason for that is that people in some of the extreme northern latitudes that may not get as much sun, we have an optional external power supply. So the standard one includes one 7 amp hour rechargeable battery. We basically triple that with this other box and really beef that up and put a larger solar panel on there. So same type of situation though, you can program this thing to transmit at a given interval. With the pricing structure I used in a slide that's coming up, I used, I believe, a 2-hour transmit interval because the satellite transmissions are a bit more costly than the cellular ones. So you can transmit 3 parameters, I believe, every 2 hours for the minimum rate. And those 3 parameters might be the pressure, the converted water level into units of feet or inches, and then the water temperature. So you can narrow that down or have them all 3 come through. So those are broadcast up to the satellite. Again, we're using the Iridium satellite constellation, so there's a network of 66 satellites that are in orbit over the Earth's surface. So there should always be one or multiple satellites. This information is downlinked to a system and then rebroadcast to you via the internet, either going out directly over a hard line or through a cellular transmitter and then back to your office or to your mobile phone or tablet. So you use the same software and the same internet connection whether you have a satellite connection to your system or a cellular connection. And you, depending on where you're at, you could have some tanks that are on cellular systems, usually those that are placed along highway corridors. The cellular companies have done a very good job sprinkling their antennas, their cellular towers along those corridors. Ones that are more remote you could have on satellite, but yet you would access all of those using the same software program and have the same view. So what our on-site components are for this is we have what is branded as the TroLink 201 Iridium modem, a power supply, a solar regulator and controller, and then a weatherproof enclosure. And again, we do have that solar panel with the optional external battery pack and enclosure that can also be purchased along with this. And for those of you that are really handy, there's really no reason why you can't find your own enclosure and put your own external batteries in there to beef the system up if you need to. So that's always an option. There's really nothing fancy about what we're doing with that external battery enclosure. Okay, so the third case study that we want to look at here is remote telemetry with pump control. So I've tried to lay out a little schematic here of what this would look like. So you've got your tank situated somewhere on a high point in the area, so it can gravity feed your remote troughs that you might have placed around there. And of course, generally the groundwater wells, the places you're finding groundwater to pump to the tanks, might be 100 yards away and might be 20 miles away. The only thing that you need to have really is line of sight from the tank to the well where the pump is. So at each site, at the tank and at the pump, you have a radio in there with a little logic controller that has set points on it. These two devices talk back and forth, so you would have set points programmed into the device at the tank. So when the water level is below a certain point, the radio would call the other one, trip a relay, kick that pump on, and would fill that up. And as soon as the measured water level in tank hit a certain point, it would shut that relay off. And again, water's continuously fed out to the troughs. If somebody wants to, there's really no reason that you can't monitor the water levels in the troughs and tie those all into the same master station that's sitting at the tank. Now with this, you have a radio to cellular modem or radio to Iridium modem gateway. So in this enclosure, which is typically at the tank, you would have either a cellular or a satellite transmitter, and basically have that same path back to your computer that we described in subsequent screens. So if we look at our equipment list of system components at the tank, you would have your water level sensor, a measurement and control module, a rechargeable battery with a solar panel, a radio, and we use 900 megahertz spread spectrum radios. We can also use narrowband, but we typically use the spread spectrum just to avoid having to get a license. And then you also have either a cellular or Iridium satellite modem and a weatherproof enclosure. And at the pump, you have a radio and antenna, a control module with a relay, a power supply. Now typically there is power at these pumps of some type already, so we can just feed off of that and trickle charge the battery that we're using there. Now if you don't, we just simply use a solar panel at this site as well. Obviously we can't run the pump with that, but as far as the system at the pump that monitors it, just very low power, low current draw, 12 volt DC system with a solar panel, and then a weatherproof enclosure. Now, if you don't mind, I do have another, and this is the last one, I promise, poll that I want to launch. This one is, pump control is a requirement for me. 3 options on there. Initially, when we got looking at this at the request of an engineer with USDA NRCS in Montana, it was felt that, hey, everybody had to have this, and as we got talking to it more, it's like, hey, you know what, it'll still save valuable time and money just knowing what the water level is in the tanks without actually having to trigger those pumps. And it certainly is a heck of a lot less expensive just to know that. So you can just, as you're sitting in your house in the morning drinking your coffee or watching TV, just log onto the internet, check the tank levels at your remote sites. If something needs attention, then you drive out there and make that trip. If not, you just go about your other chores for the day. So that's really the big savings with these systems, is we find, talking to a lot of people, that that's just part of their overall thing that they do every day is, or every week is, okay, I've got to go check on the tank on this side and the troughs here and the tank here, and it can kill a whole day of travel. And of course, everybody knows what the consequences are if you do have a problem with pipes breaking, a pump not working, and your tank or troughs not getting water. Then of course, unfortunately, there's livestock losses, which essentially is avoiding that is what justifies the whole cost of these. Anyway, rambling on there a little bit. Let me close this. Looks like we only had about half of y'all voting today. I'm going to share the results of this with everybody too. There you go. Some definitely, some no, some not sure. Okay, thank you for that. Let's hide that and get back to our presentation. And it seems every time I do that, I have to do an extra click. Okay, what I'm going to do now is actually go right into the HydroView data hosting service, so you can see live what a screen like that is. So I'm going to jump into Google Chrome here, minimize my control panel, and let you see. So as soon as a customer logs in, so when your service is set up, you are given a username and a password. Now, anybody that you give that to, we don't limit it. We limit the security strictly up to who you want to make that data available to. So anybody that has your username and password, when they log in here, over on the right, they can see a map with all of the sites that you have. So basically, these would be all of your water tank sites that you're monitoring. And you can zoom in on this as close as you want and see what's going on. And then down here in your list, whatever one you click on. So in this case, we actually have 2 sites. These have all basically run for about 7 or 8 months. I'm kind of looking at some historical data, but we're looking at some water levels, in this case from rivers, on the Cache Laputa River in Fort Collins and the Green River in Green River, Utah. So yes, they're river water levels, but basically looking at water levels in tanks would be the same thing. So whatever one I click on, whatever site is highlighted in my watershed or in my basin, and a graph of that water level appears on there for whatever time I specify. So you could go to the very end right here, click on it, and see what the last transmitted water level is. In this study, everything was being done in metric units, so I hope nobody freaks out over that. Of course, the data would come in whatever units you choose on your device, so you have that selection to make. You could have this in feet or in inches. So if I wanted to basically see all of my sites on one graph, I would just click on the button for those sites, and I could just scroll along whatever graph, and it'll show me the date and time and what the water level is in that particular tank at any point, right up until the last transmitted level. So it really is that easy. We have some things we've put on here to make it so you could click on a calendar and set the date range that you want to view on your screen. You can use these slider bars to do the same thing. You can turn on any of the parameters that it's transmitting. For example, if it was also sending the temperature of the water in the tank or the trough, you could view that temperature as well. And over on yours, I don't have administrative rights for looking at this data. You obviously would. So in this blue bar on the far left, you would have the ability to group your sites by farms, by watersheds, by allotments, whatever you wanted to do. And then over here on the far right, where it says projects or labels, you could click on your own division of your tanks or troughs. So you could have it by certain counties that you have property in, whatever grouping that you wanted to use for those things. So this is the HydroView data center for those of you that would be using the cellular transmitted stuff. There's a monthly fee that includes the cellular transmission as well as the data hosting. Now, if you want that data off onto your own computer, very easy to do. You just go down here to the bottom of the screen where it says export to CSV, and you would get an Excel spreadsheet with the date, time, and the column of all of the parameters that you're using. So if you wanted to keep records for your own benefit of what's happening on your farm tanks, that's the way to do it. So let's jump back to the presentation. And put this back in slideshow mode. And go to our prices. So let me explain these while we're up there. So for the tank level monitoring, a complete system using the cellular transmitter, your hardware is right around $1,650, and that can go up or down depending on your antenna selection and stuff like this. 1 year of cellular data transmissions with data hosting would be $420. So it's basically $35 a month. Now, if you like the idea of getting a text message sent to your phone whenever a tank level set point is out of bounds, it would be an additional $5 per month to have that text message. Now, if you're happy to have an email come to you from the HydroView data hosting service, there isn't an extra charge for that. So over there on the far right, I have a column showing what your total first year layout of cache would be to have a tank level monitoring system with cellular. Now the next category down, I have the tank level monitoring system with the Iridium satellite transmitter. Now you can see I have a price range on that one because the big difference with that are size of solar panel, the optional external battery pack, things like this. So if that was needed and you wanted to get that optional power set up through us, that would be the additional price to have that all of that system added. And then you can see that the satellite transmissions with the data hosting isn't any more money, but the satellite transmission is quite a bit more than the cellular. So you can see that a 1 year of that is a bit more expensive. And then of course the totals for that over on the right. Now we also have the category of a tank level monitoring with pump control using a cellular system. So you can see what the hardware costs would be. And again, there is a range just because we have some different radios that we can offer. There's a 0.1 watt or 1 watt radios, again, just depending on the distance of your pumps from your tanks. So a little bit of difference in radio costs and antennas too, whether you're using omnidirectional or directional antennas. And then there's the satellite option with that as well. Now with both of these systems at the bottom with the pump control, you can actually set up your cellular service with your local provider. Now whether you're using cellular or satellite, the controller that we're using on these systems actually creates its own URL or its own web page for you to access on there. So with these two devices, you're not using the In-Situ HydroView data center, as the measurement and control module creates its own web page for you. So you essentially log right into that and it shows whatever parameters you want on that screen, again, either on your phone, tablet, or computer. So there's the pricing structure. Let me just do a quick review of our company. In addition to the tank level monitoring systems, we provide water quality instruments, automatic sampling, and canal, river, and stream stage and flow monitoring equipment. Drones and drone services for mapping fields, ranches, allotments, as well as survey, GPS, and total stations for surveying. A lot of offices in the western United States. These are our main ones. In addition, we have 3 or 4 satellite offices, but these are all essentially service centers that we have placed around the western U.S. So thank you very much for attending today. I do want to again remind you that we do have demonstration equipment available, and we're very happy to send this out to you. So you essentially be seeing the whole concept from installation to the measurement of the tank levels to seeing the data on the internet. So it's also a good thing too if somebody thinks that, hey, we're not sure about our cellular coverage in our area, we really like the price of the cellular system, so we want to try that out. We could send that equipment out to you and you can try it out. It's very quick and easy for us or for you to look right on the internet, see if that data is coming in and see if it's transmitting. I'm going to open this up to questions right now, but if you think of any later, or you want information, if you want a formal price quote sent to you, data sheets with all of the nitty-gritty specifications, give me a call, shoot me an email. I'll be happy to get that out to you. So I'm going to go monitor the question pane right now and just look at that. And if you have any questions, go ahead and type those in there, and I'll read those off for the group and get those answered for you. And if we did such a thorough job of covering everything today that you don't have any, we'll just shut this down in a few minutes and hopefully look forward to hearing from you all later. Doesn't look like we have any coming in at this time. I'll keep it open here a few more minutes. Okay, looks like we have one there. Let me see if I can the slide presentation be sent out? Yes, it can. If you would shoot me an email and ask for that, that would be great if anybody wants that. And again, we will have a recorded version of it too, so you'll get a follow-up email and it'll have a link to where the recorded version of the presentation is stored on the internet, so you can just go access that, typically from our website. All right, well folks, I'm going to go ahead and sign off there. Thanks again for taking time out of your day to attend this, and let us know how we can help you. Thank you.